Welcome to Chaos in the Lobby. I'm Spoony Bard, and with me today is ShadowZone, one of the most analytical content creators on YouTube when it comes to Kerbal Space Program. So, ShadowZone, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You started your channel about 10 years ago now, and looking back on some of your oldest videos, it looks like you were pretty set on building a Kerbal Space Program focused channel right from the get-go. What motivated you to get started creating content, and why did you choose Kerbal Space Program?
Well, little known thing, actually, nobody knows this nowadays, but my channel existed about 5 years prior already. And it was full of paintball videos because back then I played paintball with a couple of buddies and I posted our videos there. But since I stopped playing that and I'm no longer in contact with any of that group. So yeah, my channel actually, when I went public with it, was KSP focused from the get-go. And I started playing KSP, I think not even a year prior, just a couple of months earlier. And I was inspired by mostly by Scott Manley's interplanetary quest videos. If I'm not sure if you remember those, it's been a
Oh,
long time
absolutely.
ago. And I'm not sure if he did those before I started the channel or afterwards. Anyway, but those were a huge inspiration for me in general. And his KSP videos basically taught me how to play KSP because back then there was not a lot of info out there. And the reason why I got into KSP at all was, I think, an article in Kotaku or something about somebody who built like this majestic space cruiser in KSP and flew it to Joule. And I was like, wait, there's a game where you can build such a thing and fly it? I have to check that out. And I did. And yeah, the rest, as they say, is history.
How long did it take you to realize you had kind of found your niche community? I was recently speaking with Matt Lown, and he mentioned that he posted his first KSP video and it managed to get like 30,000 views. I was looking back at some of your older videos and I noticed your second ever video on Kerbal Space Program has like an astonishing 350,000 views, which is incredible. Uh,
Yeah.
so it looks like you,
Was it the Hex station?
it was, yeah,
Ah,
it was.
okay, yeah.
So it looks like you and him had kind of a similar experience. What were things like when you were first getting started? After that second video, did you continue to see that kind of success with your videos, or did it take a while?
Not really, and I don't even think I have to look back into the analytics if that's true, but I think that Hex Station video kind of was like a long tail thing. It kind of kept going and going and going. I don't think it was like a immediate viral success. It just went like, okay, there's interest in this, and then it just kept going because who was stupid enough to spend 6 hours fitting together blocks to form a hexagon space station? Yeah, maybe people were hate watching it, like, what are you doing? But actually, I don't think that the videos that came afterwards were able to capitalize on the success that much. And I think one of the videos that did well was a couple months later was my Normandy replica. And I think that went well, but I still am actually full-time working my day job, a different one than back then, but still. And it was never like, it never occurred to me that I should like, okay, maybe if I invest more time in this, that this could be a career or something. I was just happy people were watching it all.
Yeah.
And nowadays, knowing what the algorithm does and did back then, if I had maybe followed up with more frequent releases of videos with more consistency, then maybe the channel would have managed to grow a little bit faster than it did. Because you mentioned Matt Lown, he overtook me. He started his channel after mine, but he very quickly caught up and got more views than me because he's super consistent. It's like every week there is a KSP video. And back then he even did his, I think, Planet Coaster video series on Wednesday and also the Space News on Mondays, which he now kind of stopped doing. But yeah, Not sure if that answers the question. I kind of forgot where it started. I started meandering. Sorry about that.
No, no worries. I think it answers it. Obviously, one can assume Kerbal Space Program 2 would have been or had a huge impact on the future of your channel. And you were one of the few who actually got invited to play it early on and got to see it, kind of before everybody else. I saw you had made a video on an absolutely insane NDA that they had sent you. What were your early experiences like, when you were first exposed to KSP and the development team?
Well, I was lucky enough to got invited to the PAX West's event that they did back in 2018 or 19. I forgot. Basically, it was a couple of months after the trailer was released. It was, I think, 2019. Must have been 2019. And in September of that year, we got invited to Seattle. And I mean, bas basically all the big guys were there. It was like Scott Manley was there, EJSA, Das Valdez, the list goes on. And it was kind of, for me, it was like a hopeful new beginning because everybody was super excited, especially Nate Simpson, of course. He was like I think either in your interview or somebody else, he called himself the cheerleader, and he truly was. And it was not just a role that he played. You got the feeling that he really was that passionate about that. And after I spoke to him at PAX West, I showed him one of the KSP builds I was working on, and he took my laptop and showed it to his developers and said, "This is what we need to enable," and stuff like that. So I really got the feeling that they really wanted to do something great with it,
Yeah.
and everybody was super nice, super accommodating with us. But there was a wall. There was always this wall of the corporate side of things, blocking some type of information, or I'm not at liberty to say answers, etc. And that was from the start a little bit of a yellow flag, not a red flag yet, a yellow flag. So we were cautious, but we were still hopeful. At least I was. And KSP views or the views on my channel, they were not that good at that time because KSP was already late in its life cycle. And the KSP2 videos, they got a lot of interest. And I kind of had hopes that interest in KSP 2 and a good release on that game would also be able to boost my channel numbers, etc. But as we know now, that was not the case in no aspect of this story, unfortunately. I was not able to play KSP2 um, in that preview that they did at the STech Center, where they invited me, but I didn't have time, and Matt Lown and other guys. That's the video where Matt posted his first wobbly rocket in KSP video, and I was really how do you say it? Disappointed that I wasn't able to go. Not just because of KSP2, but also because of visiting STech and all the cool stuff there. Yeah, but it was an interesting new beginning, and it was kind of a hopeful time for like the community. And as Scott Manley said in his interview with Nate Simpson, don't mess this up.
I remember.
Became kind of the mantra, and I was always like, okay, guys, take your time. We don't need it next year. We don't need it in 2 years. We need it when it's good.
Yeah.
And yeah, unfortunately, there were some other interests at play, as we now know, that prevented that from happening.
I completely agree with you about Nate Simpson. In my experience of speaking with him, he seems really passionate, and I don't think anybody wanted KSP2 to succeed more than him. Like a lot of us, and like I said to Matt, maybe you and Matt more than others, we lost a game that we wanted to play, but it affected his income and his career and to some degree his reputation because he gets a lot of blame oftentimes for things I don't think are necessarily his fault or things he maybe had
Mhm.
any control over. Um, but yeah, I mean, when did you start to have concerns about the development of KSP2?
Um, well, the concerns started when I got to know that the first couple of delays, right? But okay, it was COVID and things were weird, etc. And then there was not for a long, long time there was not any actual gameplay. There were these static shots of some majestic space cruiser somewhere. Nobody knew if the footage was sped up or if it was out of the engine or whatever. So it was always a controlled experience that players got, right?
Mm.
It wasn't like, for instance, now with KSA, the first time I talked with Dean Hall, he just fired up his build as it was on his machine and shared his screen with me. No NDA, no nothing, just okay, there it is. And I kind of had really high hopes that KSP2 would have been that transparent from the get-go, but unfortunately it wasn't, which I am thoroughly convinced was not Nate's doing. He was like the front man of the band, but to stay with the musical terms, the tour manager had a lot more to say about those things. And even if he would have been the sole decision maker, which I don't think he was, there were other things at play, like for instance, how do you keep the old code or do you write it from scratch? Uh, Things like that, where he based on where he came from his education and experience, I don't think he would have had enough knowledge to make that decision on his own. So I don't think he was the one who decided that. I don't know. I haven't spoken with him in a while. Um, but yeah, I don't think he deserves the full blame. But as always in life, as soon as you have somebody in the front, in the spotlight, people tend to look at this person and hang either the positive or the negative things on that person. Yeah. And to come back to what you said about a game that we wanted to play, I wanted to play that game with my kids. For me, it was like this could be a family moment for us, like building spaceships together, flying to the moon together, teaching them orbital mechanics through a fun experience. And yeah, that was taken from me.
Yeah. I talked with Matt Lown a little bit about that and how influential of a game Kerbal Space Program has become. Um, for you, what other games had that kind of influence and that kind of staying power?
Ooh. Well, the first that comes to mind, of course, is Minecraft,
Yeah.
right? It's older than KSP and still around, right?
Yep.
So that's a huge one. Then if we talk about societal influence, more in terms of a series than of a single game, I think the Doom series was one of the most influential. Like Doom One was like the beginning of mainstream media recognizing there's something like first person shooters, or there are even first person shooters around. And I'm not sure how it was in where you live, but here in Europe, especially in Germany, not where I live, but it's close by. In Germany, where there were like huge discussions about banning these types of games
Oh yeah.
because there's blood in it and people are killed and whatever. And that was the first time that computer games had like a societal, political impact on day-to-day lives. There was an actual index of forbidden games in Germany. And you remember Command and Conquer, the original one?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, in the US version or in international version, if you shot a soldier, these like 3 pixel high things, then they turned red, right?
Yep.
And in the German version, they had to turn black because they were androids and they were full of oil, not full of blood.
Really?
Nothing else was changed.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
When you mentioned Doom, yeah, it had the same kind of impact here. It's not the very first video game I ever played, but it's one of the first ones and I was too young to play it at the time, but
Hmm.
my dad had a copy that he would play. Not in front of us, he would kind of play, but I found it. It was on a floppy disk and I found it. And so, when he wasn't around, I snuck and I booted it up and played it. And I just fell in love with it. And like you said, it was one of those games that had kind of a societal impact. I remember at the time in the US, we had something called the Satanic Panic in the 70s and 80s and 90s,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
parents were starting to be concerned about the shows and video games, and oh, look, it's teaching them to worship the devil and that kind of idea. And so there was a lot of discussions at the time around that and how these were influencing kids. Uh, I don't know. I think I turned out all right, but
Well, I don't know what kind of dark magic you're performing in
right,
the room behind you, right?
yeah. Like most people, I mean, when you found out that Kerbal Space Program 2 was canceled, I'm sure you felt gutted. What was that moment like for you and realizing the impact that it may have on your channel?
I think the thought about impacting my channel was secondary. My first reaction was a mixture of disbelief and anger. Well, not really disbelief. I mean, it was like the games industry was not in a good place, still isn't. And we all knew that Take-Two had a couple of skeletons in their closet in regards to how they treat small studios or employees and whatever. And I do not trust a man who's called Strauss because Strauss is the German word for ostrich. And I think he really should take his head out of the sand. Uh, anyway, so it was like, okay, that happened. I kind of hitched my wagon to the KSP2 train because I wanted it to succeed, right? It was like I really wanted it to be good, and I was hopeful that it could be, especially after the For Science update, which kind of showed everyone that hey, we're moving into the right direction. And it, for me personally, I still feel it did move into the right direction at that point. Um, but and it was kind of like, hey, the next update could have maybe, and you even saw in the Steam reviews that the reviews started to get more positive, the more recent ones. And it was like, okay, maybe the next update would get them over the next kind of curve and make them stay safe. And there was like Nate was really convinced because when they announced the For Science update, we did an interview back at the Space Creator Day. He was really convinced that Take-Two saw this as a long tail project and that they're not going to pull the plug. I mean, he even said that after the camera stopped rolling, when he was like, he almost broke down because he was so jet lagged for the interview series with me and Matt Lown and I think two or three others. He was like high on 5 cups of coffee. And afterwards, he kind of like at the dinner event, he almost fell asleep. It was like his eyes were at half level constantly, and even then, he was totally convinced when no cameras were rolling, when there was no audience to pander to. He was convinced that the game would be fine because the publisher saw what long-term potential it has. But to come back to my channel, I seriously started thinking about okay, now that that's gone, and KSP is not going to come back to reach the heights it had before. And to be honest, I wouldn't say that I got bored with it, but I did not have that passion I had for it that I had a couple of years prior because I kind of did all the things that I really wanted to do. And of course, there's always something new coming around. For instance, a couple of months ago, I did that replica for the No Man's Sky plane. But I don't think I could do a KSP video per week like Matt does, right? So that's something I not I don't feel as passionate about as I did 5 or 6 years ago. And I was really struggling to find like a new direction for where I should take the channel or what I could do about all of that. And I always wanted to know what happened, right? What's really going on? And when the game was still in active development, people were like complete silence. They ghosted me. They were like, nobody wanted to talk to me because they were afraid that they could lose their jobs. Well, now they lost their jobs. And I had hoped that maybe that could make some people rethink their position to talking about somewhat journalist. And I decided to reach out to a couple of people, and some answered, and thus came about the KSP2 development history video. Yeah.
I had a kind of similar experience. I mean, like I mentioned about it, it was on a much smaller scale. I
Hmm.
started my channel making tutorial videos for a game called Starbase, which was really popular in its first couple months. It had like 9,000 concurrent players, so great start for an early access game.
Hmm.
The shipbuilder was one of the best shipbuilders I have personally seen in like a modular spaceship type of game. But the tutorials were non-existent. So it was really unintuitive and difficult for people to figure out. But I had spent a lot of time tinkering around with it. So I made these tutorial videos that I think they did pretty well for someone with 0 subscribers. And but then the game just vanished. I mean, over the course of a month or two, the player base just fell off a cliff, and they've tried to get the development started again, but it's just it hasn't really caught
Right.
on. But it didn't take too long after Kerbal Space Program 2 was canceled that Kitten Space Agency kind of picked up the torch. I think it was only actually a couple months later that we started
Yep.
getting our first images of the spiritual successor. And
Yep. Yep.
so, what were your first impressions of KSA?
Um, the first impressions was okay. I read the title, Kitten Space Agency, the KSP replacement by Rocketworks. I think that was the title that Dean put onto Reddit, and something like that. And first I was like, somebody is a bit arrogant. And then I saw the video and I was like, okay, that looks like an engine. That does not look like somebody just rendered something and tried to fake something. Okay, this looks legit. Then I saw the post where he said, "Okay, we have this guy and that guy," and then Jamie Layton, JPL Repo, answered among the comments confirming that he is on board, and I was like, "Okay, somebody got the band back together."
Yeah,
It felt like that. It really felt like some not already Phoenix out of the ashes, but you could see some glimmer, right? You could see some little red spots in that ash pile, and not sure if I immediately did a video on that or if I poked around a little bit first, but I thought, okay, let's keep an eye on that. That looks interesting.
yeah. I was really
Yeah,
excited. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Especially with people like Harvester and Blackrick, like you said, Jamie, and several other people, Dicey on board. I remember feeling kind of as excited as I did when I first saw the trailer of KSP2, because the KSP2 trailer that they showed was really great. So
Oh
I
yeah, it
I
was.
was on board the hype train for that one. And to this day, I don't understand fully why they didn't have more of an interest in having Harvester on board for KSP2.
I don't know.
He said
This
he
is
reached out
something.
to them, but they
Yeah,
just never called him back.
I'm not sure who he reached out to. Do you know
I think he
who
said
he?
it was one of the investors. He mentioned it in one of
Okay,
the talks I had with him. But he did say in hindsight he's maybe kind of glad that they didn't, because he doesn't know that he could have changed the course of KSP, and then
right,
his
right.
his name would have been attached to it too, and it just wasn't good for anybody involved really.
I don't know why they did not contact him because maybe the thinking of the people who made that decision was like, okay, he's out for so long now because when KSP2 was announced, Felipe was already out of KSP for a couple of years, I
Yeah.
think, and they had still on the team at Squad back when KSP2 was in development. They had like Jamie, they had some other people, etc. So maybe they thought we have enough knowledge to go on without him. Maybe they thought, okay, the original IP owner is back. Maybe he wants to get the IP back. Maybe there is some potential discussions waiting for us there. Maybe they did not want that hassle, and maybe they only thought about that because that's what them corporate types would do themselves. Because I don't think that Felipe would have done that.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, because he's more interested in getting things along and making cool games than that side of the business. Um, but there was always what baffled me was the weirdness how they communicated or did not communicate either with the community or with themselves or with the KSB1 team, because there was some contact between them, but not in such a way that they were able to like completely understand what the code was about, etc., which is like insane. But
Right.
and also they fired a developer when he answered a comment on Reddit
Oh,
because
I
that
didn't know about
comment
that.
there was somebody, I forgot his name, but there was a right when they released the trailer, somebody posted the question. I think it was about multiplayer, and one of the guys answered, "Oh yeah, I'm working on that, and we want to do this and that." And because that answer was not corporate approved, he was fired. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'm
so that's kind of insane. And not even just, hey, slap on the wrist, please stay away from Reddit. No, just fired. Maybe there were some other things he did in the past we don't know about. I don't know, but still, either way, that should not be grounds for termination, in my opinion.
I agree. That seems extreme.
And that explains why even Nate was very tight-lipped about answering some very direct questions about some very specific things in the game. And I think even the very sanitized answers he gave during my interview with him and Scott's interview that we both did in Seattle back then, even those answers where he was like, okay, I can't talk about that, I can't confirm this, etc., where he was like super tight-lipped, but still very enthusiastic and stuff. Um, I heard that he got some pushback from corporate about the answers he gave in our interviews.
Wow.
So there's that.
Yeah.
So- and I did not feel that I got too much substantial info out of him. I mean, I got his story, how he came to the game. I got what he wanted to do with it, but there were some things apparently that corporate didn't like, and
Yeah, I wonder what
I,
specifically that was. Because I mean, we had already talked and we knew about like the idea of multiplayer. We knew about colonies.
yeah,
So yeah, I wonder what specifically he said that he got pushback on.
I have no idea. And what's also interesting is, do you remember the KSP2 timing update video where it was just Nate in front of a black screen for just 1.5 minutes where he told us KSP2 will launch then and then, and the graphics have to be peerless, this has to be that, etc. I don't know what was going on at that time, but to me it felt like a hostage video.
Yeah.
from from the setting, from his demeanor, from the obviously canned speech that he was giving, because that was not off the cuff. That was definitely a prepared statement. And for me, it was like, are you okay, bro? It was
Someone should
like,
watch back and see if he was like blinking in Morse code, maybe.
yeah, is somebody behind the camera with a gun at your face or something? Yeah. I mean, I think he told you in your talk that he was not comfortable on camera or being the cheerleader at the beginning, so it could have been that as well. But that video was weird, man. That was such a weird announcement video.
I'll have to
But
watch it back. It's been a while since I've seen it.
yeah.
But yeah, the lack of transparency, like you mentioned earlier, and just the amount of time between even updates like that,
Yeah.
is when I really started to be concerned. Especially, and I know a lot of people were really excited about the For Science update, but that
Hmm.
came like 6 to 8 months after the early access release. And I
Later,
remember, was it
even
really?
later. It was early access started in February 23rd, and they announced the For Science update during the Space Creator Day, which was end of October.
Okay,
And
yeah.
then they released it on December 18th.
So even
It was
worse.
almost a year. It was 10 months after they put it out into early access.
Well, that underscores my feeling even more than it's just
Yeah.
it. I remember getting it and I was like, okay, this is great. And a lot of bug fixes. They'd fixed a lot of things, but at the end of the day, what they had implemented, in my opinion, was a nice tech tree, but it was a tech tree. And I remember thinking this amount of time without hearing a word, and then we get a tech tree. And then it had
Mhm.
been like another 5 or 6 months and we hadn't gotten anything out, and they had been talking about colonies. And I just thought, okay, this is going to be another kind of Star Citizen situation where it's just endless development and it goes on for 10 years.
With one big difference. Nobody was selling KSP2 starships for $5,000.
That's true. That's true.
Fortunately.
Fortunately. Uh,
Yeah.
I was still
But
shocked
but
by
I
the price tag though. I mean, the
I
50, $60 for the early access was
yeah,
was a lot.
we'll talk about that in a second. Just want to circle back to what you say about just the tech tree. I mean, there was a little bit more in there as well. There was
Sure.
the wobbly rockets fix, which from my understanding in the background was just like the same as Autostrut for KSP1. Then there was the graphics updates that BlackRock did. Those were also in there. And they did a couple of under the hood things. I think there was so much time that they had to sink into the basic stuff. The thing that Dean Hall always talks about. They really want to get the math right. They really want to get the fundamentals right. And they really had to wrangle with the old code and then replacing stuff with new code. And it's kind of the code probably at the end was like a ship of Theseus kind of code,
Yeah.
where like everything was already changed, but kind of the basic structure was still like it was in KSP1 or something. But yeah, the price. Yeah, let's talk about that price.
I think that's what has people the most upset was the full AAA price for a game that a lot of people, I mean, if you look through the comments on really any video about KSP2, it's a lot of people talking about how they feel they got scammed. Uh,
Yeah,
but
I
I think
mean,
with early access, you have to keep in mind, okay, this may be the last update the game ever gets. That's just the nature of early access. But with a game like KSP2 that had the backing of Take-Two and Private Division and these massive studios, yeah, I can see where people are coming from.
I mean, how many years are they now delaying GTA 6?
Right. And that's for console. They haven't even given us an idea for like
Yeah,
PC.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think just 1 month of GTA 6 development costs them more than 2 years of KSP2 development would have cost them.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, the price was a lot to ask for. But maybe they were kind of like looking into the future and seeing like $80 for Doom the Dark Ages,
Yeah.
which was like crazy.
If you're enjoying this podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And if you want to support me and my channel, you can do so through Patreon or by joining my channel here on YouTube, where you'll get members only exclusives like early access to new episodes, members only videos, and extras. Plus, you'll be helping me focus on getting my next guest and creating new content.
So maybe Take Two kind of wanted to jump ahead to like Doom the Dark Ages kind of pricing, which was like, I mean, $80 for a PC game, even if it's a Doom game, right? That's like
It's a lot.
insane,
Yeah.
insane. And I've heard since, I'm not sure if you watched Nate's long explanations about what to do in as an indie game developer when he tried to put the Maelstrom. Now it's the Pan-Galactic Postal Service game,
Yeah.
I think. Um, when they wanted to put that game out there, they kind of thought about, okay, let's do it like for $2. And when we have more content, let's increase the price to $5, then do it to $10. No, because the Steam algorithm will punish you if you increase the price, right?
Okay.
So if you increase the price of your game, Steam will think that you're a bad developer and want to fleece the customers and will list your game lower than others or lower than you did before. At least that was what Nate found out when they tried to do that. So maybe there were some people at Take Two that said, okay, if we do it for $20 for early access now, and then in 2 years when we have like the full game ready, okay, 2 years might be a little too optimistic in hindsight, but if they had put it out a couple of years later and then increased the price like by $30 or $20 or whatever to like 40 or $50, then there was a real danger potentially that Steam would rank that game lower and lower eyeballs on it, and they would not have gained a lot of revenue by that. So maybe somebody at Take Two knew that and decided, okay, let's bite the bullet now and put it out at the full price that we want to sell it at a later date. Then again, I don't know that. And maybe it was really just a case of Take Two trying to recover some of their losses
Yeah.
because, as we know, the game was originally planned to come out in 2020
Right.
and it came out 3 years later and was not and came out. It was not finished yet, and it was not never designed to be an early access game. It was not modular. It was not developed that modularly that you could say, okay, now there's the base game, then we add that on, then we add that on. They really wanted to, from my understanding at least, they really wanted to put it out there as one big beautiful game. And
That's what I remember hearing. Yeah,
yeah,
it was 2020 was supposed to be a full feature complete release.
right. And unfortunately, we all know that that didn't happen. And yeah, maybe Take Two really wanted to recover their losses, which I don't think they did, based on the reactions people had to the game, both because of the price as well as the quality of that initial release. I mean, I said when it came out, I said, you're not buying the game, you're buying a promise. I think that was those were my exact words in my first sort of review of the early access build, because that's what you did. You did not buy yes, you paid $50 and then you got the state it was in. But if you forked that over, you were like, okay, I want this to be the great game that it could be, the game that I could have played with my kids,
Right.
right? And uh, that's why I kind of still wanted it to succeed, because I thought, okay, now people have put their money in there. Now the developers should really work hard to provide that value to them, right? And I truly believe that the developers, that everybody at Intercept Games, from Nate to the smallest cog in the wheel, that everybody really wanted to do that. Right? I'm totally convinced that the rank and file really wanted to make that game succeed.
I think so too. I really do. I think there was a lot of mistakes made early on in the decisions about how to go forward. Like we did learn that they had reused a lot of KSP1 code, which I think was a mistake. And we know that Dean Hall had pitched in his RocketWorks pitch to Private Division that he wanted to build it from the ground up, but they didn't have any, videos or screenshots or artwork to go along with it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I obviously in hindsight, being what it is, the idea to reuse that code was not the right call.
Yeah. I mean, based of what I was told, the Star Theory owners, the two guys who ran Star Theory, the original development studio for KSP2, those guys wanted to kind of do just a glow up, right? Take KSP1, make it prettier, fix the most egregious bugs, slap one or two features on it, and call it a version 2. Make a quick buck. It was like $10 million in 2 years development time with a budget of $10 million. And this might have worked,
I think it
right?
might have.
Yeah. But somewhere along the way, there came the scope creep, sort of like, okay, then we had Interstellar, then we had that, then we had this. And maybe they had no idea how difficult the code was to understand or to work around. So they were basically way over their heads with that. At least the people who made the timelines.
I
Yeah.
agree. I think if they had taken KSP1, like you said, polished it up, remove as much as you can the Kraken and the different bugs that will just randomly destroy your ship. And if for me personally, I mean, there's the big three were Colonies, Interstellar, and multiplayer.
Hmm.
And personally, I could have done without multiplayer, and I could have even given up Colonies. I was really interested in the Interstellar aspect. I also would have liked to see I guess this kind of plays into Colony, but the expansion of like resource extraction and having to
Hmm.
go out and like find rare resources. I even think, and this is, I kind of jumping around topics here. I think a feature for KSA that I'd love to see is like a telescope program where
Oh yeah.
maybe you have to, in order to find those interplanetary systems, you have to construct in orbit large supermassive telescopes or, with multiple launches or maybe a orbital vehicle assembly bay. I think that would be really fun. And I know that Dean in my interview with him, and I think you mentioned it in yours as well, that he really wants to highlight the ground crew and all of the myriad of people behind the scenes when it comes to
Yes.
space travel.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that that's maybe one way that might happen, and hopefully we'll see those types of features. But between those three, Colonies, multiplayer, Interstellar, what were you looking forward to the most?
Oh, it was basically the same as you. I was always, I mean, I'm not like Scott Manley or some other people in that are based a point of view or from side's point of view. Science fiction guy, right? I love these the thought of an epic expansion of humanity out into the galaxy. And I love the thought of like massive starships hanging above the rings of Saturn and stuff like that, like the majesty of it all. And for instance, that was one of the reasons I got hooked in the 90s to Babylon 5, that TV series, because it was one of the first that really relied on CGI. And while it looked wonky in the beginning, they could do like these massive space engagements, like with like hundreds of tiny fighters and dozens of battleships and whatever. And also interstellar travel. And yeah, interstellar travel, like exploring, getting to know new worlds, because we like KSP1, all the planets, I was on every one. And yes, okay, in KSP2 they looked a little bit different, but it was still the same planets. So
Yeah.
I looked forward to exploring more. Right? It's also when I go on vacation, I don't go somewhere to go to the beach. I go somewhere to learn about the country and learn about the people and explore and maybe find a small little tavern hidden somewhere in a cave where people don't speak my language and I don't speak theirs, but we get along. And suddenly I get a meal that costs like $2, but it's better than every $300 steak
Yep.
in a fancy restaurant or something. Those are the kind of things that I enjoy, and I really wanted to have that. I wanted to feel that awe again, right? Because this goes back to one of your first questions. What really got me hooked to KSP was not just the game itself, but there was one experience where like built like a ludicrous battle cruiser type ship, and I had no idea what Delta V was until that point. I just knew, okay, I have fuel and it's like this amount. And I went into the map and I kind of pointed at Joule and I said, let's try it.
Yeah.
And suddenly I got an intersect. I got an intercept with Joule, and I was like, "Hey, I can reach Joule with this." Unfortunately, I was out of fuel when I reached it,
Right. So you
and then I
can't
had to.
slow down. Yeah.
No, I was able to
Oh,
get
you were.
into an orbit around Joule, but it was like a super wonky wide orbit, and I had no fuel left to do any maneuvers. So I
But you
had to
got
do
there.
like
Yeah.
I got there, and that was like, yeah. And I really wanted to have these experiences in KSP2 because from what I understand, um, Nate or the people who designed the new systems, every planet they thought of every planet as a new puzzle, a puzzle to solve. So every planet would have had some special way that would make it easier to land on it or harder. If you do, for instance, there was this kind of eyeball planet in one of the preview videos. I don't know if you remember. They called it Puff, Puff,
I don't
and it had
remember
like
that one.
yeah, there was like these. Do you remember that Tom Vinita yelling Friday thing
Oh,
where
yeah.
they yeah, and it's Friday, and then they had like a super quick cut montage of what the team had done over the past 2 weeks or something like that. And there was like maybe 5 sections or something of a little moon or planet that looked like an eyeball because on one side of it there was a huge ocean and the rest was like rock or ice or something. And I can send you a picture later, or show you where you can find the clip.
Yeah, please do.
And it was called Puff. And how do you land on that, right? Because like if like half the surface is like water crossing the equator, I mean Eve also is kind of like that and Lathe too, but the land mass is more distributed. And maybe there's something down there in the water that you can discover or something like that. And I was really intrigued about all the ways that you would have to finagle with building your ships and planning your missions to solve these puzzles. That was what I was really looking forward to. But one thing I have to totally agree with you is the telescope stuff. Uh, so I really want this either in KSA or as a mod. And I wanted like you start out on your home planet and you know nothing. You only have your home planet. You don't even see the moon. You have to build a ground telescope. And
Yeah.
okay, you can see the moon because you can see it like that. But you have to discover all the planets first. And even at first they're like pixelated dots, even if you zoom in. If the graphics were broken, you zoom in and it's like pixelated surface unless you increase the capacity of your telescopes, unless you increase the size of your lenses and have better algorithms to have a better resolution of your imaging. So that would be nice. And also, you don't know anything about them like mass or atmospheric composition unless you send a probe there. Or maybe some spectrography. Nowadays, we can, of course, recognize what kind of atmosphere a planet has by watching it. But for instance, what kind of gravity does it have? For instance, MacJab or Kerbal Engineer Redux, they don't tell you the thrust to weight ratios you would need to get there and lift off unless you send a probe there first and analyze, okay, that's how much gravity, how much acceleration is there to get back out of the atmosphere. So that would be a really, really neat thing to have, either in KSA or maybe there's already a KSP mod that does that. So anyone in the audience, if you know about such a mod, tell us,
Yes,
please.
please. I completely agree. I think more reasons to use probes, satellites, comms network. I really enjoyed sending up or designing more than sending it up, just a ship that had like the ability to launch out 10 probes. And so you could launch it out. And like you said, maybe you don't know anything about a system. I also like the idea, just expanding on that, of once you get to an interplanetary location, maybe needing to send out a satellite and build another one of those supermassive satellites, like we mentioned earlier, in the new system before you're able to find the next one. And so you
Hmm.
can kind of grow your universe around you. And that's something else I'd really like, is the ability to kind of add in ad hoc modded universes rather than just, I like a complete overhaul as much as anybody else, but I'd also like the ability to just add in these new systems so that we can get to a point where there's 10, 15, 20 systems in our
Right,
game. I think that
right.
would be really fun.
Yeah.
Um,
I think KSA will allow us to do that because I already played around with, there was somebody who already recreated the entire Kerbal system in KSA. There's like Kerbin, there's Minmus, the Mun, Yuna, Jewel, whatever. Every planet is there.
I didn't realize
Maybe
they had
even
gotten to all of them. I saw Minimus and the Moon, or
no,
Mun, I
they
guess.
they have or the Mun if you
Moon,
use the umlaut.
the umlauts, yeah.
I saw Jewel. I was on Lathe. I think there's Elu as well. So KSP, was it KSA? No, KSP Redux is the name of the mod. And I mean, it was like released not even 5 days after KSA got gone public, which is insane. And
And I
which
did
also
see someone's
shows
also
how,
put in Kerbals already. Uh,
yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that as well. And people were kind of mad at me for showing that mod
really?
because they were like afraid that the current IP holders would see that and start suing KSA
Hmm.
or suing Rocketworks.
I mean, if it's a mod, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really speak to that. But I'm assuming if it's a mod and it's something that came from the community, and if Rocketworks starts posting it, that might be a different
Yes,
situation. I don't know
I
enough about
total
it.
I personally totally agree with you, but I am not a private equity company lawyer.
Right.
On the other hand, if I were a smart private equity owner and I was sitting on an IP that already has some baggage, because the Kerbal IP does have baggage now with all the stuff around KSP2, then I would not stoke that fire by making people kind of have negative sentiments towards me, because right now I think there's a lot of positive sentiment toward KSA inside the entire space sim community. And why do people want Kerbals? Because they still have that positive attachment to KSP. They really want to relive like the glory days of KSP back when they were. And if I were a smart publisher that owned the KSP rights, I would play into that and say, hey, great that you did that mod, but why don't you want to play the new Kerbal game?
Yeah.
Ta-da! Right? And kind of do it that way, because that way you would generate way more goodwill and in the end way more revenue than suing a company that did not even do that mod, right?
Right.
Because I truly think that the community would burn them down, and rightly so, if they went that route and sued Rocketworks for a mod that somebody else did. And a new Kerbal game would be immediately review bombed.
Yeah.
And I would review bomb it as well
Yeah.
if they
And
did that.
I think that'd be fair. Yeah. Speaking of the Kerbal IP and out, it has been sold, and there's been a lot of rumors about what they're doing with it. I've heard a couple, I've heard one rumor that there's ex Annapurna developers are kind of banding together in order to restart development. Do you think there's any truth to that, or
Um,
or do you think Kerbal's done?
I only know what I think all this Annapurna stuff is based on an article by Jason Schreier in Bloomberg. And I've read that article, and from what I understand, the people, the Annapurna people that they got, they were not developers, they were publishers, right? So they took them in, and my interpretation is that they took these people, that Haveli, the private equity company, took the Annapurna people in to monetize what they can off of that bulk of private division stuff that they got. I think they already released the Tales of the Shire. The I think it was a cooking game or something. I
That's
don't
not one
know.
I've been following. Yeah.
No, did anyone? But um, I'm not sure that. I mean, that Kerbal Lego game could be a quick win. It was written in Unreal Engine and it was pretty far along. I mean, there was still a lot of work to be done, but I think there was a chance that this Kerbal Lego crossover game would have been fully released before KSP2 went out of early access. I think there was a reasonable chance for that. And I think there still might be a chance that this game could get released. Maybe they're still trying to get the legal stuff with Lego out of the way, or still working on that. I don't know. Um, but I haven't heard or seen anything that would suggest to me that they're having actively have developers working on it on like a real Kerbal game like KSP2 or KSP3 or whatever you want to call it.
I think you'd have to go to three. I don't know. The baggage with two, I think, is awfully heavy. Uh,
Yeah,
and restarting from that, I think, I mean, if I was a developer and they said, "Hey, here's the Kerbal IP, do what you want with it," I don't think I would say, "Hey, we're restarting KSP2." I think I'd say we're gonna do three and fix. But I think the Lego thing is brilliant. I think because I mean uh the idea of having like Lego sets of Kerbal seems like low-hanging fruit. I mean, I think those would be wildly popular,
yeah.
just physical Lego sets as well. Um, but are there any features that you're hoping to see in KSA that haven't been discussed yet?
Features that I'm hoping to see. Yeah. I mean,
I guess aside from the telescopes that we talked about. Yeah.
yeah, of course. Of course. There's I always wanted to have more in KSP or KSP2. I always wanted to have the ground exploration be more meaningful, right? So even with the For Science updates, which was of course not yet fully fleshed out, but you go somewhere, you grab a sample, you go somewhere, you plant a research cabin or whatever, and and even if you plant a mine and mine ore in KSP1, it's like, okay, you've done that. Now what? What's my reasoning to go over that hill? Okay, it's another biome. Okay, great. Yeah, but once I have the 3 or 4 biomes in my pocket and have all the science of that, then I'm kind of done. And the breaking ground expansion went into the right direction, I think, with the scanning arm where you could grab scan some ground features. Um, but yeah, it's really difficult to kind of pinpoint a specific thing. As I said, the telescopes would be great. Interstellar travel would be very interesting. Like new ways of building stuff. I would like to have everything radially attachable. Like in case B one, you had some parts that you could only attach to nodes,
Yeah.
right? If there was not a green dot on it, you could not attach the other part. And I always helped myself out with using a radially attached part with a dot with a node and then stick it to that. So you have like increased your part count already. And what I really want from KSA, and I told the dean as much, is to have like the feeling that KSP gave me, and which made me completely fall in love with it, was the unlimited creativity, both in designing my ships and how to fly them and how to get to orbit. I mean, you could like do a straight up launch and then do a 90-degree dogleg and go to orbit that way, right? If you only strapped enough boosters onto your rocket. More boosters.
Yeah.
And
That's exactly what my first few launches looked like.
yeah, and it was fun.
It was.
And and also you were never limited in how the game never demanded you to play in a certain way, right? The only limits were physics, and we have those out there as well, so that's fine. And I really want to have that kind of thing, that unlimited creativity. Um, I'm kind of a little bit worried that they're going a bit because the RocketWorks games, both Stationeers as well as Icarus, they have like enormous depth to them. Um, but that can be off-putting to novice players if you don't if you see that and you're like, okay, I have to invest probably years of my life to to really get to know this. And I really hope they will strike a balance with because KSP2 went in completely the other direction, right? They really wanted it to be as accessible as possible to get as many people on board as they can, and this was also the declared goal that Nate put out there. And when like a 10-year-old kid came to him on the Space Creator Day and told him that, hey, I learned so much by your new tutorials in KSP2, it was like the, the complete validation for him that they took this approach, right? And yeah, so it's hard to me to already ask for features in KSA when we don't fully know what direction the game is going to take, because I don't think it's going to be just a KSP clone. There's already a couple of nuances in there that make it different. I'm not sure. Have you played the pre-alpha extensively already?
I have, yeah. I was one of the people that got asked to play it early into the
Ah,
industry
right.
pre-alpha, so I was lucky enough to try it out early, and it especially the progress they have made since that just a few months ago to now has been incredible. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was on vacation when the first industry pre-alpha was released, so I didn't have my gaming PC with me, of course. But only my laptop with like meager mobile graphics, and so I played around with it in like the our Airbnb on vacation on an island and a small laptop screen.
I mean, but that's valuable feedback too, because one of the main, so I have a 4090. It's kind of a beefier machine. And a lot of people, don't have a 4090. A lot of people are playing on a 1070 or a 2080. And one of the main things people commented in my videos of my Let's Plays that I made about it were, hey, can you get your hands on just a laptop with some integrated graphics and see if it'll boot up? And I didn't have access to one, so I didn't get to. So that obviously is
Yeah,
valuable to a lot of people.
yeah. I mean, I we have like four computers at home here, right? Mine, my wife's, and my two sons, and we have like 50 series, 20 series, 30 series, and integrated graphics. So I have a lot, I have a lot of variety to pick from.
Yeah.
And the 20 and 30 series ran fine with KSA, and of course the 50 series as well. And it even worked a little bit on the laptop. So there it was interesting to see the differences, and it was like after after having like 25 FPS maximum on my laptop and coming home and then finally booting up my rig and installing KS8 was like,
Yeah.
whoa. So that's what it's supposed to look like.
And it's really smooth. And I've said this in almost every video I've made on the subject, but the ability to switch between planets and ships and from ship to ship, and it's just instant without even a moment of stutter is something that has really just blown me away. Because
Right.
even in unless your ships were really close in KSP, there was a loading screen. If they were right next
Yeah.
to each other, you could swap. But that little, and it wasn't a long loading screen, I guess depending on your hardware. Uh, but it was there, and it kind of, I don't want to say breaks immersion, but it's nice to not have it, I guess is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I mean, what really annoyed me in KSP and KSP 2 as well, because basically I think the same code was at work, was the 2.3 kilometer limit, right? When you were in orbit and the physics distance would cut in,
Yep.
if like everything is on rails, and then once it's at 2.3 kilometers, it would switch to physics distance. And always the ships would jump. There's like, okay, you're lining it up, you're lining it up, and then 2.3 kilometers, and it's like here.
Yep.
And finally seeing it not happen was kind of like weird at first, because for 10 years I was conditioned to believe that's how orbital rendezvous work. Of
Yeah.
course they don't, but
So now when it doesn't
um,
happen, you're like, wait, it's broken.
yeah, there are some things that are still broken. I mean, it's a pre-alpha and
Right.
not everything is working. Especially one of the features I was really looking forward to, the multiple cameras in multiple windows,
Right.
where I mean, there is the feature, there's the menu item to add a camera, but last time I used that, it was still very wonky. Because what I really would like to do is like have like look at my spaceship and enjoy how it looks and have like all the UI outside of my game window, right? Because in the very early builds, you could even drag the nav ball outside of your window, which you can't now. They kind of disabled that. And my kind of vision for playing KSA was like, I only have my game window, which would be perfect for recording YouTube videos, by the way.
It would.
You only have a 1440p video on my 4K screen, and I have all the UI elements around, so I could play with it uninterrupted and have recording it all the time, and would have like beautiful scenery all the time without some nav ball or some altitude counters interfering with the visuals. And also, what I would like to do is like have my target when I do an interplanetary transfer, have my target planet in a small window on the side to see where my orbit would end up, and then fine tune it. Because when I control my ships, I really want to see where they're looking at, what direction they're facing, what their attitude is, and then like fine tune with the RCS thrusters where I'm going to end up at my target planet. And this is also something that KSP was wonky at, because you could fine tune your approach as best as you can, and once you left the sphere of influence, it was in a completely different place. And KSE doesn't do that, and I'm still expecting it to do it every time I do a transfer.
Well, I think that's what they're calling the instantiable physics, where everything, they're not in relation. This ship isn't in relation to the planet. Everything is rendered on its own with its own
Mhm.
physics, which
Yeah,
is really blown me away. I mean, when they first started saying that, I was like, okay, we'll see how that works. Because when you talk about, oh, everything's going to be, simulated on its own, and all the parts are going to have their own simulation with the spherical billboarding. I'm like, all right, they're saying this is going to work efficiently, but let's wait until we actually see how
yeah,
my GPU is handling all that physics. But it works great. It really does. Um,
yeah,
a lot of
it
people seem
does.
to have reservations, though, about the kitten aspect of the game. Uh, do you share those hesitations or reservations about kittens? Do you wish it
Uh,
was something else?
no. Very clear. No, I don't share those reservations. I honestly don't care if it's a kitten, a koala, a dog, a kiwi, or a Kia or whatever. Uh, I want to build cool spaceships and fly them,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it does help that they managed to create kittens that actually look cute and curious and fun, and proportionally, I'm fine with what they did. Um, I don't get the kitten hate. I really don't. Or let's not call it kitten hate, because some people they're like they claim they're cat lovers and would hate to put their cats into harm's way. And I'm thinking like, yeah, but you would be fine with putting other living beings in harm's way.
Yeah,
So what's that all about? And yeah, I don't get that. And I think it's personally, just my personal opinion, this is a vocal minority type of thing, what's going on here.
I agree.
Um, at least I hope so. And I mean, Dean is always saying, like, if the kitten aspect is the only thing that people are complaining about, then they're doing their job right. Uh, and for me personally, it's not the main thing why I would want to play that game, right?
Right.
But it does help that the characters are actual characters and not like, for instance, in Juno New Origins, the Droods, which are like these faceless astronauts, nondescript characters that just walk around and you don't have any connection to them. Even if it was creepy that the cats would follow you around with their eyes all the time in the first first build that they were integrated.
I actually liked that. A lot of people didn't, but I actually liked the eyes following you. I don't know.
I liked it up to a point when it was like after 3 minutes of looking at me, I was like,
Look
yeah,
away.
do something else, right? No, I'm not going to feed you. Not sure if you ever had cats, but we
Yeah.
had two cats in the past, and the main thing that they want from you is food.
Yep. Always.
And
Even
it
if they
was
just
like
ate.
this kitten looking at you all the time. It was like food.
Yeah.
And yeah, but yeah, I'm totally fine with the kittens, and I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with it. I still hope that they implement something like the 9 lives idea.
Yes, I
Like
like
if
that as well.
cat your catstronaut crashes, that they don't die immediately, that they have like 9 chances to get out of the wreck or something.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really like that idea. And then, because people are gonna want to protect the cats, I think, that look like their pet cats. But nobody's perfect, and we all have missions that go wrong. So I like the 9 lives idea where you get, because then you have to be real careful with the one that's only got 1 or 2 lives yet left. Matt had an idea of Critter Space Agency where it's all types of animals, which I actually like. Because then if you get, there can be rare
Hmm.
ones, like maybe alligators are really rare or something. I think that's a fun idea. But
Yeah.
uh,
It sounds fun, but
it's a lot of
think about designing animations and spacesuits for a crocodile or an alligator that don't look weird
true.
because because cats or kittens, even though far removed, they're still mammals, right? They have two appendages, their torsos are longer than their heads, etc. But like reptiles, they have a different type of physiology, right? They would just look weird if you put them in spacesuits like the kittens and put them upright.
Yeah.
I mean, a kitten is not upright usually, but they're known to stand on 2 legs from time to time. They can do it for a short while. So you could imagine that some evolutionary niche of feline could develop 2-legged motion, theoretically. Uh, not, I mean, yeah, there were actually lizards that managed to walk on 2 legs. They were called dinosaurs. Uh,
Yeah.
and so there is that. But then again, you would have to think about the proportions. Imagine like a Velociraptor or T-Rex, that type of proportions into a spacesuit. Do you make them sit down? And then if you shrink them down, they kind of will look like, um, what was that game or that movie where you had like lizard people inside that? Or Star Trek, one of the first episodes where Captain Kirk fights the lizard on the
Yep.
desert planet. Eh?
Yeah, I forget what they were called now. Oh, that's
Yeah,
gonna
I
bug me.
totally forget as well, but I'm afraid that what's you would end up with if you go the alligator route. right?
True. And like you said, the added workload of having to design all of these additional and animations for each of the different characters. Yeah, it would be a lot.
But it could be DLC, right?
Yeah,
The cat universe, the dog universe, the koala universe,
that's an interesting
and
idea. Yeah.
then use the interstellar aspect of KSA to add, okay, now we have a new system. There might be new species there, new intelligent species. Oh, they look like dogs, right? Um, or like monkeys or like Kerbals. And um, there was like I had a thought, but I lost it. I'm sorry.
No worries. But speaking of DLC, what do you think about this contributions model? I know there's a lot of hesitation from people about the contributions model, and you asked Dean, "Is there going to be microtransactions?" and he gave you a definite no. Uh, if the contributions model doesn't work out, I did ask him in my review, what is Plan B? He said Plan B would be probably to put someone else in charge and just go to a more traditional model of selling the game.
Right, right.
But what are your thoughts on it? Do you think that it's attainable to have this game be free and just survive off of contributions?
I mean, I think we're not even a month into the contribution stuff, and I think last time I checked today, I think I looked at the numbers today in the morning, and I think it was like 95,000 or something
Yeah, getting very close to 100K.
for basically a better demo with a lot of unfinished business and with a lot of way to go still. I mean, there are people who contributed $10,000,
Which is incredible. Yeah.
which is insane. There were people who contributed over 1,000. I mean, I also gave a little anonymous contribution there, but not not that amount.
Right.
I'm not the $10,000 guy, unfortunately. And it shows that there's potential for this to succeed on those merits. I'm not sure it's going to be enough because keeping staff is expensive. Even if you have like the developer that takes home 100K, you can, like rule of thumb, you can like almost double that in additional costs for the company, at least over here where I live. Additional employer costs for salary are like double of what the employee takes home. And so basically they haven't even financed a single developer yet,
Right.
right? And they're working on it for over a year now, which is fine because games never make money in the beginning. Games are always an upfront type of deal, right? You develop for years and years and years, and you lose money, you lose money, you lose money because you don't have any revenue, of course. And then you have revenue, and then you hopefully get money. And let's see if that works. Let's see how many people make monthly contributions because that's going to be a very interesting thing because they enabled people to provide monthly contributions like $5, $20, whatever. And I think that's even more purposeful if you did that than to do one big donation, right? Instead of instead of giving $100, give like $10 every month, right? And in a year you can check in and see, okay, did I get my $100 worth? If yes, I continue to pay. If no, I cancel my monthly subscription. But to have a steady revenue stream is going to be more beneficial to Rocketworks, I think, than to get a lot of cash now upfront. And then they have to draw from that to maybe the next feature update and the next feature update, etc. Because even with the contributions model, I don't think that they're going to be able to shed like this requirement that you have with long-term games that you have to keep them fresh, that you have to provide some new content, some new ideas, some new gameplay mechanics. they don't want to keep it stale. So there will be always some type of cost of development for them. And they always will, and that will have to be financed somehow. And I really hope that the contribution model works because it would be great to see something else out there succeed. And I, but I'm not sure that it's going to, right? Because of the realities of the financials that are at play right now. Because if we think about, I think they have like 9 people full time on KSA, plus the added people from other branches of Rocketworks, the Brutal team, the AWU people, etc. So there's like, let's say they have to pay 12, 13 people. Let's stick with 12, right? So 12 people, let's call it an even 200K a year, which includes like power and water for the office as a share of that employee, and all the other stuff, paying for their computers, paying for their license fees for, well, in that case, not no longer Unity because they work on Brutal, of course. But then you have like 2.5, $3 million a year of running costs, right? And you have to earn that somehow.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me a little bit scared for the future of KSA. Just the realities of the business side of things. I don't think what most people decry that, oh, they're not on Steam, they're going to fail because they're not on Steam. I don't think that that's going to be the issue. Uh,
I
I'm not
agree with
sure.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, you agree. Okay. Yeah. So
I would personally, I am in the camp that I would like to see it on Steam, me personally. And I do think that it presents a major challenge to decide not to, because there's a whole lot of education that's going to have to go into teaching people where to get it, teaching people about it, because people aren't going to stumble upon it just, browsing Steam. And so there's those challenges, but I don't think it's, a nail in the coffin to not put it on Steam.
for me, the idea of not being able to find games when they're not on Steam is kind of preposterous because I grew up with not having Steam, with not having any of it, with not even having internet.
Right.
Um, the ideas, the way that I learned about video games was through media, through video game media, and back then there was
PC
still
Gamer
things like
magazine and yeah.
exactly things like magazines, and not even PC Gamer. Back then, I didn't even have a PC when I was like in grade school. I was like less than 10 years old or something. We had a PC at home, but it was the work PC of my father. And there was a kiosk somewhere, and I saw a magazine with the title was simply video games, right? Straight to the point.
Yeah.
Video games. And I was like, Mom, I want that. And bless her, she bought it for me. And it was actually a very good German language magazine for video games, for like Nintendo, for Sega, for 3DO and Jaguar, and what other type of weird consoles were around in the 90s.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned about games. That's how I knew that they were around. And then I went to the store and looked for them or pestered the employees to order them. So, or I went to, and, and that's basically the people that are now reaching 20 or something. I'm not sure if they remember like video rental stores, like VHS tapes.
Yeah.
They had video game rentals as well. So I went there and rented a game for a few days. And then I did it a year later when I thought, hey, that game was cool. I don't want to buy it, but I want to play it again. And I used those shops also to browse for games, right? And then I looked those games up either. Okay, are those games in like my video game, my collection of video games magazines or PC Gamer magazines, but later on. So there are a lot of possibilities to learn about video games, but and this is a thing that kind of plays into a more broader societal aspect. You had to be active about it. You had to want to know it. You had to go out there and say, okay, I want to play games. I'm a gamer. Because I'm a gamer, I want to find what new games are out there. I want to learn, are they any good? Are they what's their price? What's the game about, etc. And that's why I actively went looking for it. And to this day, I'm not really that interested in what Steam shows me on its front page.
That's
I
fair. Yeah.
I mostly use Steam to look for a very specific game that I've read about somewhere or watched a video about it. Starbase would have sounded interesting, but I think now that it's shut down or something, no
I mean, I
longer.
think you can still play it, but it's yeah, I don't think there's updates. But
Damn.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't think Steam is the end all be all of finding games. It is convenient, and the people are like gases. They're like the law of least resistance. Have you heard about that?
sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
and a gas will always take the path of least resistance to escape a container. And people are kind of the same. They always want to take the path of least resistance. They want to, and it's kind of biologically completely understandable because the less you have to expend resources, the less calories you burn, the more you stay alive in a crisis. So we're wired to be lazy.
Yeah. Constantly having to fight that. Yeah. Well, my final question is for those who are hoping to start a gaming YouTube channel, what advice would you have for them?
Um, Try out as much as you can. Don't don't start your channel with, okay, I'm going to be the next Matt Lown or I'm going to be the next Scott Manley or something. Try to be for a little while, see if it works. If it doesn't work, try something else. Maybe open up a second channel. Maybe try new formats. You will not be able to, I don't think that you will be able to succeed in the current environment of YouTube if you're not willing to take any risks. And unfortunately, it is a lottery. Getting successful on YouTube is is due to a lot of random factors. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mark Rober.
No,
Um,
I
a
haven't heard of him.
bigger YouTuber. He was actually working at NASA JPL before he started his YouTube channel. He's kind of science and tech focused, but more in a fun and towards kids geared kind of way. And he himself, he has like a couple of million subscribers, and he himself said he won the lottery. It's not something specific he did. He just got lucky with a couple of viral videos, and then he capitalized on that. And similarly to like how you said, like Matt and my Hexagon station video did, that those got so much interest was in part also due to luck. Like the stars aligning, right? People at that point of time having that much interest in this type of topic. But you can't predict that. You have to try a couple of things out and maybe have a couple of irons in the fire at the same time and see what sticks, see what works. I mean, I have one shorts video I did. There was a period a couple of years ago where I did a couple of shorts videos and then I stopped doing them because I really don't like the format. And there's one of them which is kind of insane. I have to look up the numbers. It's the most Kerbal landing ever or something. What's it? It has 1.5 million views
Wow.
and 2,100 comments. Yeah. And it's still to this day, it's like 55 seconds long. And to this day, I get like one or two comments every day on that video. It was published in February 6th, 2023, and it has 1.5 million views on Shorts. It's by far my most successful Shorts video.
But in your mind, you
But
didn't necessarily do anything differently. It just
no, it was
this
like
one caught on.
this one caught on. Yeah?
Yeah.
And that's why I say it's not necessarily your fault if your channel does not succeed. There's millions, hundreds of millions channels out there, and if you look at you look at channels in my range, if you look at pages like Social Blade or whatever that rank channels, even at 100,000 subscribers, I'm like at rank 300,000 or something, right? There's like hundreds of thousands of people with channels bigger and with more views than mine. And that's after 10 years of doing YouTube, right? There are people that start YouTube and a year later they have like a million subscribers. But it's something that you can try to increase your chances, but there's still chances, right? But mostly I ask whoever starts a new channel to be genuine. Don't try to emulate somebody. Don't try to um, start your video with hello and then finish them with fly safe. That's done. We already got Scott Manley. Don't do that. Do you, be you, because you are more interesting than being the second other guy, right? And all of us are more than just one aspect. I don't just play KSP. I also enjoy like walks in the park. I also enjoy snowboarding. I also enjoy mountain biking, and whatever. All of us have multiple interests, and try all of these interests out and make multiple channels and see where you land and where you enjoy doing it. Because if you don't enjoy doing it, if it gets a chore, if it feels like a job, then maybe you should just have taken the job.
I think that's great advice. Well, I've really enjoyed our chat. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to be here with
Same,
me,
man.
and hope to talk soon.